Hello and welcome. My name is Maureen from the Pacific Science Center, and today we are going to talk about some creatures of the Puget Sound, some whales. So, what is a whale? I have a few models here, and some of them, like an orca whale, have whale in their title, but some of them, like a narwhal, is a narwhal a whale? Well, let's look at them and find out. All right, so we know that whales live in the ocean, so we have a number of marine animals here. But whales are mammals, and what that means is that they breathe air. So when I look at this animal right here, I notice that it doesn't have a blowhole, which is what whales are going to use to breathe air from. But it does have gills. And so this is a shark. And so although it kind of is big like a whale and swims a marine animal, this is actually a fish. So sharks are fish, and they're going to get their oxygen from the water using gills. So we know that this is not a whale. Let's see if I see anything else with gills. It looks like this also has some gills. So here, again, we have another shark. All right, so we're gonna put those off to the side. Let's see. Now, here I have a dolphin. So a dolphin, is a dolphin a whale? Well, it does have a blowhole. So we talked about it needing blowholes to get oxygen from the air, not from the water. We know it's a marine animal. Dolphins are also mammals. So they have live young and they milk their young. A dolphin is actually related to a whale. It's what we call a cetacean. And so a cetacean includes dolphins, porpoises, and whales. So not quite a whale, but very, very closely related. And we can look at the anatomy of a dolphin to really also understand a lot about whales. Let's see. So we have a narwhal. So a narwhal, we have this great long, what looks like a tusk or a horn. It's actually a tooth. It's made out of the same material as teeth. It does have a blowhole. Narwhal is a mammal. A narwhal is a whale. Here we have a sea lion, and a sea lion is a marine mammal, but a sea lion spends a good amount of time up on land, and so a sea lion is not a whale. All of the rest of these examples I have, cetaceans or kinds of whales, dolphins, or porpoises. Interestingly enough, one of our favorite Puget Sound residents, the orca whale, is more closely related to a dolphin or a porpoise than it actually is to a whale. But again, a lot of their anatomy is very similar. So when we look at these whales, there are two different ways we classify whales. So we have two different kinds of whales. When we look at them very closely, we see with our sperm whale, we have some teeth here. But when we look at our humpback whale, you'll see that it actually has what we call baleen. So our two different classifications of whales are toothed whales and baleen whales. Interestingly, the baleen whales are much bigger. So humpback whales and gray whales, these are kinds of whales that have baleen. And what baleen is unlike teeth, it's actually a little bit more like hair. It's made from the same materials as our nails, and it has these bristles that come down from the jaw. And as the whale opens its mouth, it gets a lot of water to flood into its mouth, and then krill and all sorts of tiny shrimp or plankton or little tiny sea life get stuck in these hair-like structures of the baleen. The whale then releases the water back out and is able to eat any of the things that are caught in that baleen. So our orca whale is a toothed whale. So although this model doesn't show the mouth of the orca whale, We do have, and we'll look at it a little bit closer soon, a model of an orca skull, which you can see just from the very edge has teeth. And so here I have some examples of some teeth from, this is the tooth of a sperm whale, and this is the tooth from an orca whale. What's interesting about toothed whales is that each year they add a layer of dentin or tooth onto their tooth structure. And so we'll get a close-up of this also, but when you look at a cross-section of a tooth, it's just like tree rings. There's a layer or a circle of tooth for each year that whale was alive. So when we're looking at the teeth of whales, we can not only tell how old they are, but if we know how old they are, we can also tell if it's a male or a female, as male teeth are bigger than the female teeth. The toothed whale, like the orca, is going to eat fish, other mammals, including the orca can eat some other toothed whales. So our resident orca whales, the J clan, it consists of 3 different pods, the J, K, and L pods. So you might hear those being referred to when we talk about orca sightings in the Puget Sound. And our resident orcas only eat salmon. So when we think about our waterways and pollution and what we're doing to keep orca populations alive and thriving, we really need to be very careful about our salmon population. The resident orca whales of Puget Sound are one of the only endangered whales listed on the endangered species list. Now, the transient whales that come into Puget Sound have a much wider range of where they swim, from California up through Canada. Then transient orcas are the ones that are going to eat other kind of larger mammals. They're not going to rely just on salmon like our resident orcas do. Let's take a closer look at our orca skull. This is a cast of an orca skeleton. So it's not a real orca skeleton, but it is the cast of a real skeleton. Again, we talked about toothed whales. So we can clearly tell from this cast of the skeleton that our orca is a toothed whale. But what if something had happened and there weren't any teeth here? There's actually another way we can look at the skull or the skull of whales and decide whether they are toothed whales or baleen whales. So at the very top of our skull, you'll see a big hole. Now, what's interesting, when we think about our nose, that's how we're going to breathe in and breathe out, right? So our nose is right at the tip of our face. But if we think about an orca, does it breathe from the tip of its face? No, we know that an orca, when it comes out of the water, is going to breathe from its blowhole. And so the nose of an orca is at the very top of its head. And when we look, we'll zoom in a second, when we look at the skull of the orca, we'll be able to see one big hole. But what's interesting is that just the blowhole can also tell us if we have a toothed whale or a baleen whale. Toothed whales are only going to have one blowhole. So it's going to be a blowhole that then splits into 2 internal nasal passages, where a baleen whale is going to have 2 separate blowholes. So we'll look at some of the models to see the difference between 1 blowhole and 2 blowholes. As we zoom into the blowhole, you'll see that the 2 naval cavities of our orca whale aren't equal in size. Every toothed whale has a larger left nasal cavity compared to its right. Very interesting. You'll also see on our skull, we have our eye sockets, and in the very back, you'll see a hole in which the spinal cord goes out to the rest of the whale skeleton. The Science Center also has the skeleton of a gray whale. Unlike our orca whale, this is a real skeleton. It's from a 17-month-old gray whale that beached on the Washington coast. It is on loan to us from NOAA. Similar to our orca skeleton, it is a young whale, so it's not full size. You'll notice a few things as you look at our skeleton. When we compare the skeleton we just looked at for our orca whale Do you see any teeth? I don't. And you'll notice that there really isn't a place for teeth to go in that skeleton. So a gray whale is a baleen whale. So again, it has those hair-like structures that it uses to eat as opposed to teeth. You'll also see where the spinal cord comes out of the skeleton. Just like we talked about with our orca whale, it has that hole at the back that connects the skull to the spinal cord of the whale. What else do you notice about the skeleton of the whale? Does it look similar to other animal skeletons you've seen? The gray whale is also very familiar to us here in Washington. They mainly swim in the Pacific Ocean, but we do get a number that come into the Puget Sound each summer. When you're out in the Puget Sound, look out for gray whales. Look out for orca whales. You might also see humpback whales, fin whales, or minke whales. And remember that our whale populations here really rely on us to be great about the water quality and the things that we're putting into our water. So keep our whales safe. Thanks.